All right, and we are live, Brother Kofi, and I want to make sure that I keep on pronouncing your name correctly, Brother Kofi, because I think that the last time you and I were live, I called you all sorts of names. I called you Kufu, I called you Kofi, and you was like, no, Dr. My name is Brother Kofi. So, yeah, it's Kofi or Kofi?
It's Kofi.
Kofi. So, I called you Kofi, I called you Kufu. And I do the same thing. You got to forgive me, Brother Kofi. I do the same thing here at home with my baby. Sometimes I'm looking at my oldest son, my eldest son, Harvey, and I'll call him my middle son, Isaiah. Or sometimes I'm looking at my youngest son, Jalen, and I'll call him Isaiah Harvey. So I'm terrible with names. And I'm even like that, with my students over at Morgan State. So forgive me, brother, for messing up your name. But it's Brother Kofi. But peace and power, family. Now, I know that I could greet you using many salutations, because I know that brothers and sisters who come on my platform subscribe to different ideologies. However, in my opinion, I believe that peace is a universal greeting of honor, respect, and good intent towards others. So I always choose to greet you with peace. So sometimes I may say Hotep, sometimes I may say Assalamu alaikum, sometimes I may say Shalom, sometimes I may say, Amani or Alafia. Okay, but it all means peace, and all it is a universal greeting of honor, respect, and good intent towards you. So peace and power, family. Thank you for joining us on this Friday afternoon. This is 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which means it's probably, 1 o'clock over there where you are, Brother Kofi?
Say what now? I'm sorry.
About 1 o'clock where you are, brother, because I think you're operating on Central Time, right?
Yeah, I operate on Central Time. It's 1 o'clock here.
So 1 o'clock here, and I believe in California it's probably like 11 a.m. So thank you for joining us today. Today we will be discussing the Yoruba people. The Yoruba people are people, and he's going to get into it. He has a beautiful presentation to give us today. Hold tight. Will be about 1 hour. So just sit tight with us for 1 hour. But he's going to be discussing the Yoruba people, or is it the Yoruba people? I keep saying the Yoruba, the Yoruba people. And these are people who dwell in, is one of the largest ethnic groups that dwell in southwestern Nigeria. And a lot of people talk about Ifa. I know that if you've been, if you're an African-centered person, you probably heard Ifa. And Ifa is one of the spiritual systems that was created and practiced by the Yoruba people. But a lot of Yoruba people are Christians. In fact, I have some folks, Brother Kofi, in my class. And these brothers are Yoruba, and they had their indigenous names. But when I asked them about the system that they practice, they said they subscribe to Christianity, and some of them subscribe to Islam. But Ifa is one of the indigenous spiritual systems of the Yoruba people. And I know you're going to get into that, Brother Kofi, with your presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Brother Kofi once again. Thank you for coming on this particular platform, Brother Kofi, to share your information. I know that you do a lot of Facebook Lives, and that's what caught my initial attention when you put up a Facebook Live video and you were going in. And I think that you were talking about the Akan people, and then you did one on Thanksgiving, and then you did one on the Yoruba people. So I said, wait a minute, I need to reach out to this brother and connect with this brother that is banging. You have been presenting some awesome information. I love your resources. And in fact, you said that today you comprised this presentation using several books, one of which, when I showed you this prior to us going live, you were like, yes, sis, I have this book. So brothers and sisters, you have what?
One of the information from his students too. I got his student book. So I'm using information from his book and one of his students' books also. So it's about 7 different resources from different books I collaborated and got information from.
Fantastic. So for brothers and sisters who are interested in learning about the Yoruba religious concepts, check out this book, the Handbook of the Yoruba Concepts by Baba Ifa Kareed. I don't know. I hope I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. This was a book that was recommended to me by Brother Black Panther from the Masi Warrior clan. And he actually recommended another book because I told him that I was definitely interested in learning about Ifa. Because, brother, we got to return back to our spiritual systems. And the only way that we can do that is by learning about them and then practicing them again. And anyone who has seen the Haitian Revolution, 1804 by Tariq Nasheed, one thing that was very significant to me when I watched it is that the people of Haiti during that time, they band together under one identity, which was African, and one spiritual system, which was the Ifa system. Okay, so they were calling on Ogun, the spirit of the spirit of war, in order to go up against the British and the French. And so right now, Brother Kofu, I believe that we are in physical, mental, and spiritual bondage. And until we, extricate ourselves from, their education system, from their religions, and from their diets, only then will we become a truly liberated people. So without further ado, Brother Kofi, let's get with it. I'm looking forward to this presentation. You and I were talking about doing it for about 2 weeks now, I guess since Thanksgiving. And so I'm happy to have you on the platform. Let's rock and roll.
All right, let me share my screen. All right.
And this is my lunch, guys. I know people probably like, what is Dr. Ma'at drinking? This is my breakfast / lunch. I'm on a diet, trying to shake 40 pounds. So you'll see me sipping. You'll see me sipping while we are doing this presentation. So go ahead, share your screen, brother. You got it up?
Can you see it?
Yep, I see it. We're locked and loaded.
Okay. All right. Again, I go by Kofi Paisai. First, I like to say Alifia Ibe Majube Iba Igungun Kiki Igungun, which means peace to the family. I pay homage to the ancestors. I praise the ancestors, because again, we wouldn't be here without the ancestors. We wouldn't be nothing without the ancestors. So I always have to give honor and praise to the ancestors. Today I'm going to be doing PowerPoint on the introductions on Yoruba. Some may have seen it already on my live feed. I got 3 parts to it. I already done 2 already, 3 yet. But this here is going to be part 1. It's called the introduction of Yoruba. Disclaimer. I always have to put a disclaimer out here before I get started. I am not a teacher, but merely a student sharing information. I'm going to say that again. Teacher, but merely a student sharing information. And that information provided is for educational purpose only. And if you are in doubt, do the research or have it verified by someone qualified. To change the focus of this presentation to shut down, sell, or terms of the use, go to paid platform, use at my own discretion. All trademarks, designs, rights, copyrights, registered names, mottos, logos, avatars, insignias, and marks used are cited by this website or property of their respective owners. I reserve the right to add information as it comes available and or adapt, change, improve information as it comes available in the future. Inputs wanted, changes, additions, deletions encouraged. Okay. This lecture is a simple PowerPoint, nothing too deep, right? I'm not going to go too deep. It's just going to be a simple PowerPoint. Giving some basic, some basic things, just basic information about the Omo, which is the Yoruba, or the Yoruba people, and the culture, traditions, and the spiritual system Ifa in southwestern Nigeria, as well as southern and central Benin in West Africa. I am going to walk you through step by step, starting with the introduction of Yoruba, Oduduwa, excuse the Oduduwa of Eli Ifa, the cosmology creation story. And those are the 3 that I'm going to do in part 1. I already did part 2 where I broke down the Ori, break down the words of the Orisha, Lima, which was part 2. And this section is going to be part 3, but we're just going to touch on the introduction of Yoruba, Oduduwa, and Eli Ifa, and the cosmology / creation stories today. All right. As an introduction to this subject matter on Yoruba, let it be stated that origins of the people and culture known as Yoruba are so wrapped in antiquity that the exact where and when it all begins is impossible. However, the sincere attempt to present a viable description will be undertaken. Y'all, let me blow it up to make it bigger. Y'all can see it better now.
That's right. Rock and roll.
Okay. The Yoruba people migrated from East Africa across the Trans-African route from the mid-Niger River, mid-Niger, explaining supposed similarities between the Yoruba and the Egyptian culture. We hear that a lot. I'll explain a little bit more. Let me get through the slide. According to archaeologist M. Omile, informed us that the Nigeria region was inhabited more than 40,000 years ago, back as 65,000 BCE. The civilization has been deemed in part the Note culture. The Note culture was visited by the Yoruba group 2,500 BCE. The group was led, according to the Yoruba historical account, who settled somewhat peacefully in the already established Ifa, the sacred city of the indigenous people. The time period is known as the Bronze Age, indicating that civilization of both groups were relative and high level. Some stories you're going to hear so many different what the Yoruba people call the Odus, which are stories. You're going to hear so many Odus about how Ifa of the city got started. You know, some stories say that Oduduwa came from, or the people from Yoruba came from East Africa into North Africa, and then from out of North Africa into West Africa. Some say they came from out of North Africa and went into East Africa. That's why you will see a lot of similarities between the Yoruba and the Ramich culture. I got Egyptian up there, but I use the term because I know that's most of the term we use, and a lot of people don't use the term Kemet or don't even know about the word Kemet or Kemetu or the Ramich culture. They saying this is basically saying that Oduduwa, which there are many Odus, and I'm going to give you a bunch of different Odus. So there are many different Odus. So one of the Odus is talking about in this slide that Oduduwa came from out of North Africa, and he went into southwestern Africa, what we call Nigeria or what we call Benin, and he established a civilization there called Ifa. But on his way to Southwest Africa, it was already a culture already there, the Note culture. According to Olumide, Yoruba during antiquity lived in ancient Egypt before migrating to the Atlantic coast. He used as demonstration the similarities or identities of languages, religious beliefs, customs, and names of persons, places, and things. In addition, many ancient papyri discovered by archaeologists point at the Egyptian origin. Egyptians are coupled with an earlier people produced the more defined statements of what makes Yoruba. Some say Yoruba migrated to Nigeria. Yoruba migrated to Nigeria in different ways, such as the Hyksos invasions, the Roman invasions, and the Arab invasion. That's another story also that the Yoruba people did migrate out of Odu, that they migrated out of North Africa into Southwest Africa and Central Benin, doing different ways. Another one was doing the Hyksos period, which was the first the second intermittent period. Then you have them come making another wave out doing the Romans. I think that's around 332, I think, BC. Then another wave doing the Arab invasions in 642 CE. The Yoruba faith is a monolithic tradition that recognizes one God who speaks and works on earth through the pantheons of gods or goddess called Orishas, or the Ogun, exist and support the living in their daily lives. The tradition's deepest mysteries and teachings are contained in traditions. Deepest mysteries and teach are in the bodies of oral scriptures called the Odu. which have passed from elders to devotees for the countless generation.
Now, and then I want to add something to what this slide is saying, brother. Not even add to what your slide is saying, but I want to make an observation. You know, it's funny to me that Europeans will have you believe that the Africans believed in many deities. You know, like you see how you clearly say the Yoruba faith is a monotheistic tradition, right? They've recognized the one God. And when in my studies of African spiritual systems, and I don't know much, I don't profess to be, you know, a scholar in African spirituality. That's not my lane. But what I did notice is that the little bit that I do know about African spirituality is that, you know, and I got this from Brother Black Panther, and I see the commonality. It seems like there's always a belief in the one creator, and then a belief in like the lesser spirits, or which would we consider attributes of the creator, and then the veneration of the elders. Those are the three main ingredients that you see in African spirituality, right? Or African spiritual systems. But what Europeans will come and say is that, oh, these people are polytheistic. You know, they believe in all of these gods, not understanding African spirituality. So I thought that it was very profound that in your slides you have the Yoruba faith is a monotheistic tradition that recognizes the one, you know, you're saying one God, but the one creator, right? Exactly. Yeah. And see, a lot of people would think that when they think of African spirituality, they think that Africans just believed in a whole bunch of deities and they don't really understand it. So I just wanted to point that out, brother, in the slide.
Right, because every African spiritual system that you go in, all of the spiritual systems is similar. Like I deal with Kemet, you know, Kemet, the same thing, you know, Yoruba is the same thing. The Akan people is the same. I'm just speaking on the systems that I know about. The Akan people is the same thing. The people, the Fon people that practice voodoo, it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
So, okay. This here, Yoruba religion is a way of life. It is a spiritual practice of working in loving relationship, not only with deities, but also with the ancestors. To know the sacred nature of life, the breath of God flowing through all things. It is the holistic integrations of all aspects of our being bodies, feelings, thoughts, and energies in order to restore wholeness where there is fragmentation and balance, where there is disarray.
That's right.
Most African traditions include Yoruba-based ones, do work with trance and blood sacrifice, that is ritualistic killing of animals, never humans. In fact, virtually every one world religion has a desire to pay reference, although it is taboo for devotees between initiates to disclose how any or our rituals are performed. I can tell you that in Yoruba practice, as in many religions, blood symbolizes life, which it is the blood is the life of river. Offer blood to our orishas, we in living our relationships with God, or Odimari is what they would call it in a orisa. Odimari or Ole, which are the same two people. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit later, because in some Odus you'll hear separate the two. Odimari is the creator. Oleron is the supreme force, the all in all. So we'll get into that in a minute. Stimulating.
So I got a question, brother. So when you say Odu, you're saying story, right?
Yeah, Odu is stories.
Okay, all right.
They say stories or scriptures of the Orishas. Stimulating and fortifying our spiritual unities with them. According to Baba Ifa Karada, and this is a book that Dr. Oyama just showed before we got started. It's a great book to have too if you're a starter, you want to start out. A few other books be at the end of the presentations. Plethoras of books that I have read numerous of times, which are great reads. Also, I'll give them to you at the end of the show. But according to Baba Ifa Karada, book page 2, the Yoruba tradition Oduduwa the chief ancestor, and the first king of Yoruba settled at Ila-Ifa. From this point, his descendants became the kings and queens of Yoruba city. The greatest of the Oduduwa descendants was Oranmiyan, who became Alifan Oya state somewhere around 1400 AD. Oranmiyan armies marched across the southern Sudan and penetrated deep into the great tropical forest, conquering and laying the foundation of the Yoruba Empire. Speculators glory and achieve following the reign of Oranmiyan. During this great era, the Yoruba people reestablished Ila-Ifa as a sacred spiritual capital and Oya seat, which they spread it out everywhere. The Yoruba empire, due to his 16 sons, and that was one of his sons that went out. But we'll talk a little bit more about his 16 sons, and just listen for the word 16, because they use the word 16s all the time. I mentioned the word Odu. In Ifa, you have 256 Odus, and I won't be discussing it in this this PowerPoint. It's in the PowerPoint 3. Are 256 Odus. You got 16 Odus, which are the major Odus, and then you got minor Odus, which are 240. Those are the 256 Odu stories. Spiritual systems are also incredible widespread around the world. Some of this was due to migrations. Yet the most recent migration is because of the Atlantic slave trade that brought the people of Yoruba to Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Venezuela, and elsewhere. Cuba immigrated to New York City. New York City brought the Yoruba to the United States in the 1930s and the 1940s. Today, as many as 75 million people worldwide practice some version of the traditions. Nigeria and the United States, Santa Maria, Cuba, synchronized with Catholicism. And you talked about that a while ago, so some of your students practice Christianity. So we're going to get into why they practice Christianity, or how Christianity was synchronized with Yoruba. Afro-Cuban, non-synchronized, Kamdambala, Brazil, Shango Baptist Trinity, and the Ifa priesthood, Nigeria of America. At the bottom are different forms that Yoruba took during the Atlantic slave trade when we went into continents as the Caribbeans, as into South America, as well as into North America. They shaped and formed into other different names, and some synchronized other different religions. We know why we synchronize some of the different religions to our indigenous spiritual systems. I'm gonna give some of the names that I give. Santa Maria. Santa Maria was one is a form of Yoruba too. Santa Maria is also known as Regla de Ocho La Ifa, or Lukami, is an Afro-American religion of Caribbean origins that developed in Spain Empire among the West African descendants. It's a Spanish word that means worship of saints, influenced by a synchronizing with the Roman Catholicism. It is a sacred language and verified of Yoruba is Lukami language. A system of belief that merges aspects of Yoruba religion brought to the New World by enslaved Yoruba people, along with Christianity and the religions of the indigenous people of America. Carried with them various, including a trance and divination system of communication with their ancestors and deities, animal sacrifice, sacred drummings, and dances. The need to preserve their traditions and belief systems in a holistic culture environment prompt those enslaved in Cuba, starting from as early as 1550, to merge their customs with the aspect of Roman Catholicism, this religion's tradition evolves into what is now Santa Maria. Does that kind of answer the question that you was talking about earlier with your students, Dr.
Absolutely.
Oya?
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
because we was banned from practicing our own spiritual systems. In order for us to keep our spiritual systems and pass them on, we had to synchronize them with the oppressive religion. So they disguised some of the Orishas as some of the saints that's dealing in the Catholicism. So they synchronized or they merged the two religions. Even though they still doing this today, and me and Brother Ben done talked about this, they shouldn't, it's the Atlantic slave trade is over. It's no need to keep synchronizing your indigenous spiritual system in with Christianity. Kandambala, pronunciation Kandambela, dance in honor of the gods. It is a religious tradition practiced mainly in Brazil. The Povo do Santo, people of the saints. Kandambala officially originated in Salvador, Bahia, at the beginning of the 19th century when the first temple was founded. Although Kandambala is practiced primarily in Brazil, it is also practiced in other Latin America countries, including Argentina, Uruguay, if I'm pronouncing that right. Barangara, I may be pronouncing that wrong, but excuse me, family. And Venezuela has 2 million followers. Kandambala developed a creolization of traditional Yoruba funds and Bantu beliefs brought from West Africa by enslaved captives in the Portuguese Empire, which we know that the Portuguese and Spain was very influential in the Atlantic slave trade, especially during the early 1400s. Between 1549 and 1888, the religion developed in Brazil. Knowledge of enslaved African priests who continue to teach their mythology, their culture, and language. In addition, absorb elements of Roman Catholicism and included indigenous American traditions. As an oral tradition, it does not have holy scripture. Practitioners of Kandambala believe in a supreme creator called Odumare, which Odumare, like I said, Odumare in the Yoruba language is the creator or the supreme force or the all in all, and Olaran is the same person, even though some Odus have them separated as two, Olaran and Odumare. Olaran is the supreme creator, the supreme force, and Odumare is the creator. Olimari is the son of Olaran. We'll get into that a little bit later in some more slides. Who is deserved by lesser deities, Orishas. Every practitioner is believed to have their own tutelary Orishas, which controls his or her destiny and acts as a protector. And this is something I'm going to get into in part 2, or if I'm invited back to the show. If not, you can go onto my Facebook page and look it up on my Facebook page. I go into the Ori, because your Ori is connected to your destiny. And your Ori and Orisha goes hand in hand. Orisha means select head. And I break down the different functions of the Ori, which is the essential self. So that's in part 2. In the ritual, the participate makes offering from a mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdom. Kandambala does not include a dualistic of each person is required to fulfill his or her destiny to the fullest, regardless of what that is. Many spiritual baptism churches have overlapped membership with practitioners of a Trinidad Orisha religion. In Trinidad, Orishas is also called Shango, and the term Shango Baptist. And sometimes, and we know Shango is one of the Orishas, one of the favorite Orishas. So they had in Trinidad, they had their spiritual system was called the Shango Baptist. Is sometimes used to describe worships who are involved with both spiritual baptism and Orisha / Shango. the term Shango Baptist has come to have a negative connotation for somewhat worshiping of both spiritual baptism and Orisha/Shango, who argue that those who say Shango Baptists conflate with two religions, when in fact they are separated. As some have said, there is no thing as Shango Baptist. Shango Baptist is Baptist. Others say Shango baptism simply wears two hats. The mixtures of baptisms and Orisha practice is a result of similar oppression by colonialism authorities in Trinidad. In practice, the Trinidad Orisha religion is very closely connected with the spiritual baptism. Orisha worships services typically begins with a section of baptism hymns in a tradition in Trinidad and New York. Orisha's events are at the same location as the spiritual church. And some of those that I just gave you some of the examples. I didn't go into all, but I mentioned on one slide that during the Atlantic slave trade, and we're going into these other different continents, the people of Yoruba took their spiritual systems with them, which is Ifa, and you know it became other different forms synchronized with other different religions.
Absolutely.
Now, some of the scholars say the Yoruba history begins with the migration of the East African population across the Trans-American route leading from mid-Nile River area to the mid-Niger. Some debate that the Yoruba history began with Yoruba being migrated to Nigeria/Benin from the Nile Valley. The Costel incense burner depicting a pre-dynastic king wearing a white crown of Upper Kemet. This would make the Yoruba empire of the descendants of the original Kushites of the Sudan. I meant to add the incense, the Costel incense burner, so you can see the crown. And one of the PowerPoints I'm going to do with comparisons of the crowns and some other different stuff with Kemet and the Yoruba culture and the different colors.
I'm gonna look it up while you're presenting, brother. You said Costel burner
is depicting a pre-dynastic king wearing a white crown on the upper Kemet. And it's just saying that. Go ahead.
I'm looking for it right now.
Okay. Kemet would make the Yoruba empire a descendants of the original Kushites of the Sudan, who is later, you know, because they said again, like I was saying, some came from the Sudan, what the Arabs call the Sudan today, but we know we deal with the language. We know that area is called Tai Seti or Tai Nahesi, Ethiopia. Some call it Kush, but we know that they migrated from whether you call it Kush to Sudan. Well, we're going to use Tai Nahesi or Tai Seti. Migrated from that area into North Africa, which is Kemet, and out of Kemet in different ways into southwestern and central Benin, who later times migrated westways along the other groups of the Nile Valley inhabitants. Over the course of approximately 2,000 years, it has been rumored that Oduduwa, or one of his sons, was in fact a migrant from the Sudan who established a royal lineage in Yoruba land. It's one of the most widespread globally of all African tribal cultures. The origin of Yoruba people are in West Africa. Oduduwa. Y'all hear me keep talking about Oduduwa. So we're going to get into Oduduwa. Give me just a second. I was trying to check to see if anybody had any questions on here.
Is that Oduduwa?
Yeah, that's Oduduwa.
All right. And Oduduwa was he was the first to establish the Ile Ifa, right?
The Ile Ifa, that's the civilization. But there's so many different. We finna go into the different, as I mentioned, the Odus. The Odus are different stories. So you have different stories that has been passed down of Oduduwa. So we're gonna get into the different Odus of Oduduwa, because there are more than one version, or there are more than one scripture, or there are more than one story of Oduduwa. So I'm going to give you all the Odus of Oduduwa. Several legends concerning the origin and ancestors of Oduduwa abound in Yoruba and the Benin mythology. The Yoruba believe he is the father of Yoruba and progenitor of all Yoruba Obas and the Obas of Benin. The Benin believe that he is a Benin prince called Ikela Durhan, who was banished by his father. The Ojiso of Benin, his name is Benice, claims he derives from Oduduwa, a Benin word meaning fortune, path, symbolizing a painful exile from his ancestral home. This, they claim Oduduwa, son of Oran Miyan, later returned to Benin. The empire around 1000 AD, Oduduwa is believed to have had several sons, 16 in number, as I mentioned earlier. They do everything in 16. I keep mentioning one of his sons, Oran Miyan. And this is basically saying here that Oduduwa is from Benin. He's a prince from Benin. And this is one of the Odus now. And he left and went into southwestern Nigeria. And his son went back later on to reclaim father throne in Benin. Painful exile from his ancestral home. In support of this claim, Oduduwa's son Oran Miyan later returned to Benin to rule the empire around 1000 AD. Oduduwa is believed to have had several sons, 16 in number, powerful traditional rulers of Yoruba land. Most notable Alifans of Oya, Oni of Ila, Oregon of Ila, Owa of Elisha, Elike of Ibiko Kuta, Osi Maui of Odu. These are some of the places that they went into, and this is some of the names that some of his sons went into. These are the name of some of the kingdoms. Yoruba tradition holds that Oduduwa fled from Mecca to Ila Ifa, bringing with him Ifa religion, which was under persecution in Mecca. A story that they're talking about here too, where he's coming from Mecca, but there is no other evidence that I have found that Oduduwa or any other Odus that he actually came from Mecca. And with him, the Ila Ifa religion, which was under persecution in Mecca. He established a firmly in Ila Ifa and founded the Albuni cult to protect the ancient customs and institution of his people. The Oduduwa shrine is still worshipped today in Ila Ifa as the cradle of Yoruba culture. Oduduwa, the first Oni of Ifa, fathered 16 sons who founded the 16 origin kingdoms of the Yoruba. And I got this from the African Spiritual Now, wordpress.com. Oduduwa. And again, I'm giving you different Odus of Oduduwa because there are many different Odus. And again, as I stated, there's 256 Odus, 16 majors and 240 minors. Odudumari. Okay, well, I'm talking about Odudumari now. Odudumari, again, Odudumari is the creator or the supreme force. Oleron, if you see Oleron, Odumari, the supreme God ordered Obatala, which is Orisha, to create the earth, but on his way to carry out the duties, he drank the palm wine and got intoxicated. That was how Oduduwa took the 3 items of creation from him, climbed down from the heavens on a chain and threw a handful of earth on the primordial oceans. He then picked cockers on it so that it would scatter the earth from him to create a land whereof Eli Ephah. When the newly formed land was built, he planted a palm nut in a hole where it sprang a great tree with 16 branches. Again, you're going to keep hearing 16. That represents the symbolic clans of the early Ephah city. The intrusions of creation by Oduduwa gave rise to an everlasting conflict between him and his brother Abatala, exists today during the Itapa New Year Festival. In spite of all these, Oduduwa was the ancestor of the first king of the Yoruba land, while Obatala was the first person to create humans out of clay. You know.
Now isn't it ironic, brother, that you know, when I compare different spiritual systems, so you know, we are a lot of us from Christian or Islamic backgrounds, but it you know, in this creation story is always some sort of deity that creates man from dust, or man out of clay, or man on a potter wheel. Like it's always something. I just, you know, when I sit and I listen, when I sit and I study, you know, these different creation stories, I see the commonalities between all of them, and I'm kind of noticing now that you know, that the root of them, they got their spiritual systems from us, and they just took it and they applied it to their culture, and it seems like that's what they did. They just took our spiritual systems and just adapted it to their specific culture.
That's exactly what they did. You know, they are many fragmentations. The different religions are many fragmentations from, you know, our ancestral spiritual system. Just many
So
fragmentations.
do me a favor, brother. Go back to your previous slide. So Oludumare is this is considered the supreme deity, because I try to stay away from that word God, given that it takes us back to their spiritual paradigm. So Oludumare was the supreme deity or the supreme creator in this particular religion. So Obatala, he ordered Obatala. Were they brothers? I guess that's my question.
No, Obatala is a version or a aspect or characteristics of Obatala. He's each spiritual system is in case a supreme deity or a supreme creator, and or what we call a what most call a god, and then you have the supreme deity, and then you have lesser deities, which in Yoruba is the Orisha. So Obatala is one of the Orishas, or you can say he is a child of Odumare, or he's a child of Oliran, because you will see hand in hand, Oliran and Odumare is the same two. They are the same people, but in different Odus, they, you know, they separate the two sometimes, but they are one and the same. That's why I always want to, you know, throw that out there just in case if you're reading a piece of material, like I'm gonna give some books, and some of them, two of the books, I have them separate. And when you study the different Odus, you will see most of the Odus, you know, they'll tell you Odumare and Oliran is one and the same. And sometimes
I think I got confused when I was reading the bottom, because you started talking about a brother, and so you were talking about the brother of Oduduwa.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what it was. So Oduduwa had a conflict with his brother.
Yes, he had a conflict with Obatala.
Okay. All right. Okay, we can move forward, brother. Thanks for clarifying that for me.
All right. Oduduwa is and again, all this what I'm giving you, I'm just giving you different versions of the Odus, which are the story of Ifa. Oduwa is the prince of Izuduwaka. It's called Eker Ladihan, the son of Oksu Owudu, and the last Ogusu, Benin, who through the machinations of his stepmother queen and his father chief of the army staff, began a fugitive who first fled from and thence to Ifa, where an already existing Yoruba people. When the Ifa people asked him about his name, he appraised his nature, fortune, and being born a prince, together with his travels of being a fugitive, and concluded that Osan actually destined him for greatness and prosperity. He then decided to discard his formerly name, Ikaler Durhan, and told the Yoruba people that it is Izudua, meaning I have chosen the road to prosperity. The Benins never asked Oduduwa to send them a ruler. The history text, even the most dubious of them, agreed that a delegation that led to High Priest Chief Aluhan and Azuduwa asking him to come home to mount his rightful throne. Oduduwa never, despite, hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. This I have chosen the road of prosperity. The Benin never asked Oduduwa to send them rulers. The history text, even the most dubious of them, agreed that Benin sent a delegation led by the High Chief Olahan and Azuduwa asking him to come home and mount his rightful throne. Oduduwa never disputed this claim, but told them that he is too old and he cannot abandon these people who were there travels. He then sent one of his sons, Aronian Benin, to continue his father royal line. It is this Oromunian who begot Iwaka, the first via Prince Iran, and excuse me, family, for messing the name up, Widi, the daughter of Oji of Igul.
Okay, so this is just another. Story of how Oduduwa came about, who he was, and the origin of him. This is just another story. All right. Okay, well, let's roll. Let's rock and roll. And
so now I'm gonna go ahead.
Check your text message real fast, brother. I just sent you a message, and I don't want to kind of disclose it openly before we continue.
Okay.
All right, let's rock and roll.
This here is, I'm going into the creation story now. Varieties of the creation story. So here's one of in the Yoruba cosmology, there is one supreme being of the source, the almighty owner of the entire universe. The galaxy is carried out, works on earth as an aid by the 401 deities or the 401 Orishas or Orishas. Both sources, Oleron and the creator Odemari, exist in the invisible realm called the Ikoli Oran. Orishas exist as divine immortals on the Ikon Okele, which means earth. The energy source flows into the joint energy creator, which combines flow throughout joints with manifold energies and Orishas, which then flows through all existing in creation. Divinity actually begins before the beginning with Oleron, the supreme being and the source of the entire universe, according to the Yoruba teacher. So profound and intelligent and mysteries such as an intense force. So Oleron here is the same as Odemari here.
Question, brother, because I know that you study Kemetic spiritual systems. So it's saying that, Oluron is the intelligence, right? The
right, he's the intelligence,
the invisible. Is Oluron equivalent to would you say he's equivalent to Amen or Amun? Amun?
Yes, the hidden one, yes.
The hidden one, Amen. Okay, so that's what came to mind as soon as you read the description of Oluron. Okay, go ahead and continue, brother.
Yeah, even when you talk about the Orishas, the Rish in Kemet, the Netures or the Neture Oods. So you can see the similarities. And the same thing when you deal with Voodoo. Voodoo, the lesser deities would be the Luauds. So you can see the similarity there. Hold on. Let me see. All right. Creation story. This is like I'm saying, I'm giving you different versions of the creation stories. Way up in the Ikon Oron, which is the heavens, beyond the place where the sun borns, there is a gigantic water pot. And this story here, you're gonna see here, I'm gonna be referring to, because in I know we give the supreme force, we give it a human attribute. We say it's a female, or we say it's a male, say it's a he, still it's a she. I refer to say it's a she, and it does not, the supreme force or the supreme energy of the creator does not have a gender, but we understand why we give it genders. So you'll hear me say she most of the time as I'm referring to Odemari or Oleron, or you hear me say he, her. But this is a story, one of the creation stories. The water pot owned by the supreme deity. Oleron, through no one has ever seen Oleron pot. It is known far wide as the biggest, most beautiful, and strongest of all water pots, overflowing in the purest, sweetest, and the most sparkling water. The elders tell the ancient stories that hail the magnificence of Oleron pot, which one of refers to the beginning of all things. So powerful, the pot magics and its creation entire world. And even though divine water pours constantly from this ever overflowing pot, the flow always remaining full. One day, Oleron decided she wanted to begin creating physical matter in the universe. It had attempted this several times before the flooding by heavens with the majestic waters of his or her own great pot, but in each time she encountered same dilemmas because the water contained so much or its greatness and power, it was too hoy or scorched to the universe. Anything had a chance of development. Now, if this creation story is actually talking about the beginning, and I know in Kemet we call this the Zeptepi. Zeptepi means the first time. So, anybody that studies quantum physics and quantum mechanics, you can understand, or you study the Big Bang theory. This is basically what our ancestors is talking about with these new versions of quantum. These are new terms that I'm using, but this basically is what this story is describing. From time since the supreme being, he or she, is busy maintaining order in the cosmos and the faculties of the universe, deciding he or her or it needed to find assistance and a way to cool down the pot, scalding water. This is where you're going to see Oleron and Odumari, and this Odu is two different people. Odumari is the supreme deity, and Oleron is the creator. And I'm using the term daughter. Came upon a way to resolve the situation. He/she or it, remember a countless ions ago, healed the poet to slightly smaller, but still enormous magical. Oleron had given it, and he/she, or the oldest child. Odumari, who passed the heavens a little below Oleron's palace and washed over. Oleron sent Odumari to visit his or her to discuss his or her plan, which supervised by Odumari to carry out by Odumari. This was a plan as Oleron water flowed over the wide rims of the down the great belly of his she or it part. Odumari would hold he or it owns pot as just a right angle to catch the water as it fell from the upper. Odumari would mix into Oleron's water some her, it own power of beauty, along with a little bit blessed saliva to cool the waters. And she just basically, the story is just saying that Odumari, daughter, the creator, Odumari came into exist, and it's talking about Odumari's part and her trying to form matter, and everything is too hot. And again, if we understand, if you study quantum mechanics, different temperatures in Fahrenheit, and you study quantum mechanics that's dealing with the quantum realm elements and certain things, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. So Oleron, to help cool the waters down so she can be able to create matter, basically what the slide is talking about. Oleron had a task for her or he, her, or its son or daughter, her or it to look after a particular spot in the cosmos, whereas Oleron several planets, including a small one called Earth, which Earth is called Oleron Odemare to create a and take. Iya is was the Earth called. Oleron asked Odemare to create a task carol on the Earth. It needed to involve and develop over time, and to put the proper rhythm in place. Oleron suggested that Odemare shared the works with her uh, children, the Orishas. She said, after the water have cooled a bit, a great vessel, give your children a drink from the pot. Then send them down to Earth or Iya to each one in his or her own way into waters that you will create their own on my behalf, but in your name. Although I ask you to check with me every now and then, I trust you. You will put the very best of your goodness into the works. I am too busy to needed to many places and worried about all these details. So I'll leave those up to you. Also handed, unlike yours, and too old and too hot to cool down. So she just basically Odemari just basically gave the task to Oleron gave the task to Odemari. And again, I keep stating that Odemari and Oleron is the same, but in this Oduwa story, they're separate. Although I am remain the most powerful first oldest, you will be the second in command. As the creator, infinitely great and powerful force. Is speaking, Odemari, filled with emotions and gratitude, fell on his or her knees. Odemari thanked Oleron for important task and promised to put he, her, or it wholehearted and complete attention into doing his job. Brimming the joy, he is also left the Oleron palace and immediately set about to bless as a sign. To this day, Odemari remains in the lower heavens, fulfilling his or her excuse me promise to Oleron, creating life on Earth as well as the planets and stars surrounding it. So she basically did everything that Olimar wanted. You know, she taking her children, the Orishas, creating the Earth. You know, making sure the life is habitable, creating planets. Her children of the Orishas still drink Oleron magic waters and still pour the magics into everything. Earth, Oleron's owner and source of all things, continue to direct and oversee it from his or her atop of the high peak of the Iran, which is the heavens or the invisible realm. Yoruba West African creation. You know, we talked about earlier, we talked about Abatala, we talked about him planting a tree, the palm tree, the Ikoli, which it is called. And we know that Abatala for pine wine, and one of the stories I'm going in one part of introduction to Yoruba, which won't be this one, we'll talk a little bit about Abatala, which will go into the Orishas, and we'll go into some of the things that we can sacrifice to Orisha, and some of which Orishas is a select head of your Ori, be a child of Omo. So we'll go into that a little bit later. We talked about Batala, Dudawa, and climbing down a thing. He had a chicken or a cock, chain, the Yoruba children, the Omo, the land of Ifa. This is just a little picture of the creation story. Odulamar, like Oleron, is often designed as male. Odumare also transcends. Some say Odumare represents sacred womb and of creation, and because women create new through their wombs, some use masculine and some use feminine pronouns for this story. So it doesn't make a difference whether you call he or you call the supreme deity she. This is another creation story. I'm gonna kind of move kind of fast. creation story. Adunamari, a single god, assembled all of his wealth in one of the place and sent his messages out to summon the 401 Iran Moles. Iran Moles is the supreme nature beings from heavens. We only know about 7 of the Orishas, but there are more. And in part 2, I think I give you more than the favorite 7 Orishas. I give you a few more, but that's 401 Orishas. And in this story moment, what they was designed to come here and do on Iya, which is the earth or on the physical plane. Because 250 of whom became sacred odus or texts of Ifa, he sent for them to carry his treasures to earth. They were asked to sacrifice a large lump pounded yams, pot full of soups, sheep, pigeons, fowls, 302,000 quarries. The sacred entertained visitors. Odulamari message reached all 401 Oruli Moles and delivered the message, within the order of sacrifices. When the message reached Orulima, heartily and entertained with food, because this kindness and message disclosed to the Orulima that he would very anxious about carrying the treasures, because the most important one was underneath Odemari's seat. Uran Moles, again, the Uran Moles are the Orishas. It's just another name of the Orishas. Told a Dunamar message, and all of them were struggling to be the most valuable content. Some carried money, food, some other things valuable to them. Odemari messengers talked through Orulima to sit quietly, because the most important thing is. Thus, Orulima patiently watching the other Orulimas taking away all wealth, property, and various essence, they were carried to the earth. Orulima got up and went straight to where Adulimar sat shell from under the seat and departed. Orulima met the other Oran Moles or Orishas at the terminus of the road leading from heaven. They responded that the earth was covered with water and there was no place for them to land. Then Orulima dipped his hand into the snail shell and took out a net. He reached into the shell and brought forward 5-finger cocks and threw it on the net to spread the earth on, spread the matter onto the net. The cocks began to spread, said the earth. Water was moved backwards. When it seems to work was going too slowly, Orulima himself descended all land to expand thus. Be expand quickly, be expand quickly, be expand quickly. And Ifa dealing with quantum mechanics and that the universe is expanding and it is despanding. So Ifa talks about the expanding as well. Modern science talk about the same thing. He stopped and the world expanded. There was a great joy in heaven, the place where Oleron stood as the first person on earth. So be expanded to this day called Ifa Wara of Ila Ifa. The 400 Oruliman descended after Oruliman, who created the land and the first thread upon it. He did not allow any of the Iromolis to descend onto the land until he accepted all with them and gave them what he saw fit. The joyous received portions. Iromolis were those supernatural beings from the Ikon Oroli, again, which is the heaven of the physical, the spiritual realm, who found Iya, which is the earth or the physical plane. It was they who made earth habitable. Their task was to come here for human beings. They are also energies from which all nature derived. And again, we're not talking about actually corporal beings. We're talking about nature. forces in nature. Orulima, who had made it possible for Orumoli to descend to earth, accepted only 256 of them, including Ogun, god of metal, and the create Batala, god of creation, or Orisha of creation, goes Orisha of thunder, Oshun, the river goddess, the Orisha of hunting, Oshun, Orisha of justice, Osinya, Orisha of medicine, and most intelligence of all reverence called the Orishas of intelligence of knowledge, or Rulima. Rulima, and I don't know if I do it in this one, but Rulima plays a very important part when we dealing with the divination system. But people have a divination system dealing with the open divination chair. A divination chair, they deal with the OB, which is the cola. They deal with the quarry shells, the coconuts, dealing with their divination systems, and the Opele, which is the divination chains. The Babaluas use the divination chains as well. On Earth, nor did they die here. They were the links between human beings and Odemara as the creator on Earth, and they now only links now. Individuals or collective, they serve as a medium through which Odemara imparts humankind's and his scientific knowledge of nature in general and his esoteric knowledge of words known as E5. This here, I'm not gonna. This is some of the same. Let me see here. That one here, the same thing, basically the same thing. Just the Orishas. Just talking about the different Orishas coming here to human beings here on Earth. Let's see. In Yoruba tribes of West Africa has a myth about how they were created. In the beginning, there was only one sky above, water, marsh below. The chief deity Oleron ruled the sky, and the goddess Olukan ruled what was below. Abatala, another Orisha, reflected upon this situation, then went to Oleron for permission to create dry land for all kinds of living creations inhabited. So he sought advice to Orulima, oldest son, and Oleron, and the guy. And most of these stories is the same thing. It's basically some of the same things. Some of the Orishas are brung here to make life inhabitable for Odemari or Oleron, and some of the Orishas. I'll go into it. I'll go into it because I'm trying not to make the presentation. Obatala, another Orisha, reflected upon this situation, then went into Oleron for permission to create dry land, all kinds of living creation inhabited. He has given permission. So he sought advice for Orulima, oldest son, and Oleron. He was told he would need a gold chain long enough to reach below, a snail shell, white hens, a black cat, palm nuts he carried in a bag. All the Orishas contributed what gold they had, and Orulima supplied an article. All was ready. Abatala hung the chain from the corner of the sky over his shoulder and started downward climb. When he reached the end of the chain, he saw had some distance to go. From above, he heard Orulima instructed him to pour the sand shell and also release the white hen. He did, whereupon the hen landed on the sands, began scratching and scratching again. Whether the sand landed in the form dry land, the biggest plow began. And this is one of the another Odu, which is basically talking about the same thing. I was trying to find Odu. Hold on one second.
I brought you some fish.
This in here. Hold on, I'm trying to. The supreme Orisha ordered Obatala to create the earth, but on his way to carry out the duties, he drank the palm wine and got intoxicated. That this is what Oduwa took the three items of creation with from him: the heavens on the chain and through the handful of the earth of the primordial waters ocean. He then put cockers on it so that it would scatter the earth for him to create the land where Eli Ifa will be built. Land was built, he planted a palm nut in a hole where it sprung a great tree of branches that represented the symbolic clan, which I showed you on one of the pictures. The cock, the chain, the letter, Batala, Rulima city. The intrusions of the creation by Odudawa gave rise to the everlasting conflicts between him and his brother Abatala. Today, as I stated in another slide. Now, this here is a lit video I want to show, basically breaking down some of the old dudes I was talking about.
Sky above and waters below, and this was ruled, reached the council of God. Sky above was master of all that was in the waters below. One day, a god named Obatala decided to create dry land. He asked for permission from Oloru and advice from Orunmila, the wisest of the Orisha. You will need a long gold chain, a snail shell filled with sand, a white hen, and a palm nut. Once he had all of these items in a bag, Obatala hung the gold chain from a corner in the sky and began to climb down, down, down. He kept climbing down, down, down for a very long, long time. Finally reached the bottom of the chain. Obatala poured the sand and the shell into the mist below and released the hen. The hen landed on the sand and immediately began pecking and scratching into all directions. The sand soon became vast mountains and valleys. Obatala planted the palm tree and soon stood before an entire palm forest. Obatala was very pleased with his work. He named the land Ife and settled down with the cat to live on his new land. After several months, Obatala became bored. He began shaping figures in clay, drank palm wine. Obatala kept drinking bowl after bowl after bowl and kept making more and more figures. When he was finished, he asked Oloru to breathe life into his clay people. The next day, he saw his living, breathing work, and he realized that they were all deformed and ugly. Obatala swore never to drink again, and set to work building new, perfect beings from clay. Oloru breathed life into them. They immediately began building houses and cities. Obatala became the patron of mankind. and more specifically the deformed. All the Orisha were pleased with his work. Olokun, who was never consulted about the creation of the earth and mankind in the first place. Nearly wiped out all of Obatala's creations. Residing, everyone took the sea very seriously from then on.
Okay, here's my my references right here. The Handbook of the Yoruba Religion by Baba Ifa Karada, which is the book Dr. Oyama the thing. The Way of the Orishas Empower Your Life Through the Ancient African Religions, preface by Ofolapi Egba, by Dr. John Newart. Path, Finding the Souls and Path, Other Path of the Orishas by Toby Molura. The West African Spiritual Tradition, Path to the Priest by Baba Ikumbe Karada, which is a student of Baba Ifa Karada. Faluke Fatumbe, Fundamentals of the Yoruba Religion, Worships by Chief Fatma, which is an excellent book. Of Ori and the Human Destiny and Traditions, Traditional Yoruba Thoughts, a Self-Deterministic Interpretation, Obidon Balagan Olabasi, Onabanju University, Nigeria. New World Obi Divination by Owodela Ifami. And these are some of my information dealing with Eli Ifa right here. So that concludes my presentation. Sorry for it being too long. I mean, I'm sorry for me kind of rushing a little bit, but I know we only wanted the show to be only and we're running over an hour.
Yeah, but you, I think you covered all slides, right, Kofi?
It was another slide I wanted to cover about the creation story that's dealing with how Olimari and Odimon basically with mankind, and he son the 401.
We got 25 slides left. Go ahead, brother.
Oh no, it's because let me see if I can find it real quick. But that was the only slide that in the slides it was. Hold on, let me see if I can go back and find it.
Yes. I'm 202. Did someone just knock on my door? Oh.
I don't even know what slide it is now, but it's fine. It was just one of those slides. If they want to check it out, they can just go back on the page and look at it and read the slide. I think it was like 2 or 3 different slides.
What's on slide 37? Go down a little bit. I wanted to see. Like the slide.
See this here slide. This is part 2. This is the Ori.
Oh, okay.
I go into the Ori. Yeah, this is like part. This is part 2 to the lecture.
So, brother, let's recap some of these terms. In the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned Eli Ifa. So, Eli Ifa is what specifically? Is that the Yoruba people, or is that the name of the land? What is Eli Ifa?
That's the name of the land.
Okay, so Eli Ifa is the name of the land, and the founder of that land was Oduduwa. Is that correct?
Oduduwa, yes.
Oduduwa. And so you said there are a lot of Odus, and what you mean by Odus, you said stories, right?
Yes,
so
stories, right.
Yeah, Eli Ifa, which is the land, and so Eli Ifa is the land that's located in southwestern Nigeria. Is that correct?
As well as central and western Benin.
As well as central and western Benin. Okay, so that territory, southwestern Nigeria, western central Benin. That territory is considered Ila Ifa. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and the founder of Ila Ifa is Oduduwa, and you said there are a lot of Odus, which means stories of
Right.
how it's a bunch of stories of how he came and I guess founded that particular territory, was settled in that territory, right?
Right. How he migrated, and yeah, right, how they migrated,
Some
from
folks say
different
from
parts
Mecca,
of people.
some folks say from Mecca,
Mm-hmm.
some people say from the Nile Valley, right? Some people
Mm-hmm.
say from East
So,
Africa. So there are a lot of
mm-hmm.
Odu, which explains
Mm-hmm.
his migration, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
go ahead, brother.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
just want to make sure we do a recap because this was a lot of information that you provided us. So I just want to make sure that we, give the people a recap. So
Right.
you had
So we also. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm cutting you off. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. What were you getting ready to say, brother?
Oh, prior to that, before we got into Oduduwa, we talked about a little bit about how they ended up in West Africa. Um, we talked about the different versions via the Atlantic slave trade. We talked about Shango Baptist. We talked about Kamdambala, Lukami, um, versions of Yoruba and them synchronizing, why they synchronize Christianity in with the indigenous spiritual system.
Oh yeah, I didn't even get there yet. That I was just starting from.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I was starting from the beginning. When you first spoke about Ila Ifa, when you spoke about Oludumare, not Oludumare, Oduduwa. And then I was going to get into their spiritual system, which is Ifa, and how the creative force, or that creator or creative force. I'm not going to say that creative force because there were a couple of deities that created things, but I guess you would call that the what do you call it, the head of the pantheon of the is Oludumare. That's correct. So you have Oludumare, and then from Oludumare you have
and Odulimare and Olaran. You hear Odimare, but you hear it's Olaran too. And both of them are one and the same. Yeah, Olaran.
Okay, and then you said it was 12 Orishas?
No. It was 401 Orishas. They called the Iran Moli or the Orishas. We only know about 7 particularly. That's the famous 7 that we always talking about, Shango and Oya and Oshun and Ogun and
right. But you said it's over 400 of them. And he talks about like you said, it's 7. He talked in his handbook of Yoruba concepts. He talks about the 7 major Orisha. So there's a breakdown of Oshun, Ogun, Shango, Oya, Ishu, Alegba, Obatala, Ori. So he breaks that down in this book. This is a good book. I'm gonna start reading this ASAP. I had it on my library, on my bookshelf for a minute, but I've been reading, 3 other texts. So I haven't gotten a chance to read it. But after watching your presentation, I'm starting to get motivated to get it off the shelf and start reading it. But okay, so you have these different Orishas who created the universe, who created the heavens and the earth, right? The universe. And also they were also responsible for creating human beings. Is that correct?
Right. And Batala is he put you in the mind of Kanun. We know Kanun of the Remitic culture as well, spiritual system as well. Kanun was also one who fashioned man's, so Kanun and Abatala is the same, and Abatala is considered the head of the Orishas, and he deals with so many different other characteristics. I don't want it's in the next presentation where I deal with actually the archetypes and the characteristics of what these forces of nature is you. The forces of nature dwells within you. So I talk about that in part 2.
Absolutely, and that will be hot. So if you could come on next week and tackle that. That will be very interesting to see. And I love how you stressed or emphasized that these are forces of nature that we're dealing with. That these aren't, actual human beings, that walk the earth or lived in space or whatever. Like you said, these are forces of nature that our ancestors had amorphosized. I hope I pronounced the correct word when you give them human attributes. I know I messed the word up.
That's right.
You give them human attributes in order to explain complex ideas and concepts. Anthropomorphized. That's the word. Anthropomorphized. I would have been sitting here.
I knew what you were talking about.
But I would have been racking my brain, brother, until I went in my mind and grabbed that word. But anthropomorphized certain ideas and concepts in order to make it clear and understandable. So it would be interesting for you to break that down. I'm interested in learning about it, to see exactly what these forces of nature, represented and how they work together to produce, I guess, what we see today. And I love how in your presentation, when you mentioned the world expanding, and you said that's a part of Ifa cosmology. When we get a lot of these concepts and ideas from European people say, oh, you're practicing the white man's science. But our ancestors, they knew about these concepts and ideas eons ago, but now if we say the Big Bang Theory, they say it's the white man's science, when in Igbo spiritual system, it said that the world began with a bang. So these aren't new ideas and concepts. That's the point that I'm trying to make. And it isn't the white man's science that we're practicing. You get what I'm saying? But anyway, thank you again, brother, for coming on the show. I was going to ask anyone in the chat room if they had any questions before we close out. I see Brother Doug is in the building. Thank you so much, Brother Doug, for joining us. Sister Olivia is in the building. Brother Sean P. I always mess his name up. Brother Ini Harit Kalfani. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Brother Sean P., thank you for joining us. Lessa Darsa.
Sean P.
Yes, brother, Sister Lessa Darcy, thank you for joining us, Queen. Brother Calvin Madugu, he had me cracking up in the chat room. Thank you for joining us. Trap Media, thank you for joining us. Damian, Artie Buckley. Who else came in? A lot of people came in, came out, came back in. Croston Cooper Jr., thanks for joining us. Mac Tip, thank you for joining us, brother. I see A.L. Beasley, thank you for joining us, brother or sister. Alphadale Empress King, thank you for joining us. So I just want to say to anyone, do you have any questions before we close out? Do you have any questions, brothers and sisters, before we close out? I'm going to give you a few moments to type them in the chat room if you indeed have a question. But definitely, in the meantime, if you're getting your questions together, please purchase this book, The Handbook of Yoruba Religious Concepts. I need to check it out myself. It's only 109 pages. I can get through this in 2-3 days. I really just sit down and read. But definitely check this book out, family. Okay, I see there aren't any questions for Brother Kofi. Brother Kofi, thank you for coming on the platform again, for giving a wonderful, wonderful presentation. Sit tight, Brother Kofi, when we hang out, when we stop the broadcast, because I had a question of my own. But thank you for joining us, family. We'll be back again. Please join us on Sunday for the RAM Book Club meeting. Resurgence of the African Minds. We meet every Sunday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please, please, please get in the book club. Right now we're reading. Let me grab the book. Oh, man. Right now we are reading Blueprint for Black Power, family. And look, I have my autographed copy from Brother Sababu, who is the editor and publisher of Blueprint for Black Power. And he was a great, great friend to Dr. Amos Wilson. I've been in touch with the elder. Haven't spoken to him in a few weeks, but he and I are definitely in touch. We have signed copies of Blueprint for Black Power. You can visit LiliLaPoetespeaks.com. That's L-E-L-E-L-A Speaks. Lili La Poete, I'm sorry, so that's P-O-E-T-E Speaks.com. So you can visit LiliLaPoetespeaks.com to get your autographed copy of Blueprint for Black Power. when I say that this is a phenomenal book, Brother Kofi, I can't put it down. And within the last, I think we've been going strong since the end of August, and we're already through the first half of this book. This week we'll be covering chapter 14, which deals with race and economics. And when I say that, it's kind of like, if I go get my book, you'll see that I have like pages highlighted. So join us on Sunday for the Ram Book Club family. Sunday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Get your copy of Blueprint for Black Power from LiliLaPoeticspeaks.com. Peace and power.